Welcome back to another episode of the Fifth Quarter Podcast. I'm your host, Marcus Jones, the Bluff City Cowboy, coming to you live from Memphis, Tennessee. And last week, we finished our breakdown of the NFL draft. We covered undrafted rookie free agents last week. The week before that, we talked about the drafted players. So this week, we are putting the drafted players in the rearview mirror, and we are looking ahead to this offseason. We're hitting our third wave of free agency. So this week, we are going to cover the top 5 positions of need post-draft. So we went through our first wave of free agency. We've had our draft. We've had our undrafted guys come in. We pretty much have our 90-man roster set right now. I think we're set at 89 people. So now we're going to look at what pieces we still need to bring in based off position. If you guys were here a couple of weeks ago when I did the top 5 positions of need before the draft, the positions have changed a little bit after the draft. There's still going to be a couple of familiar positions still there. Some of them will not be in the same order as they were before, but we do have a new list of top 5 positions of need going into the offseason. So thank you guys for joining. I see the views are starting to grow pretty fast. Thank you, everybody who's joining from DC4L. As you guys know, this is an interactive show. So we are fueled by Fifth Quarter Nation. Give us your questions, give us your comments, give us your thoughts about the Cowboys or your thoughts about what we're talking about. I'd be interested to hear some of you guys' thoughts on what you think are positions of need, and we can kind of discuss what your reasons are and why I may or may not have those positions. All right, before we get into it, this group is sponsored by DC4L. So for you guys who are watching from other locations, be sure to go to Facebook, type in DC4L. We have about 9 admin right now that consistently monitor the group. So we don't allow any hate speech. We don't allow any bullying. We don't allow any inaccurate Cowboys news. We don't allow any spam pages. So it's overall a safe space for Cowboys fans who want to just come and learn more about the team and talk about the team. So if you haven't done so already, go over to Facebook, type in DC4L. I believe the page is about 40,000 people strong right now. So it's a lot of Cowboys fans there. It's a lot of talk, a lot of content, a lot of great things going on over on the DC4L Facebook page. And for those of you who are watching from the DC4L Facebook page, if you get a chance, also go over to YouTube and type in DC4L. Hit that subscribe button for the DC4L YouTube channel. And while you're there, go find me at Bluff City Cowboys. Hit that subscribe button as well. All right, I see we got my guy Jeff in the comments. Jeff, thank you for joining us. Appreciate you tuning in. For those of you who are watching, I got 2 things I would like for you to do. Number 1, get in the comments. Let me know who you are, where you're from, how long you've been a Cowboys fan, any topics that you would like to discuss outside of the topics that I have for tonight. Number 2, hit that like button. The views are still going up, but let's get those likes to match those views. So everybody who's watching right now from Facebook, be sure to hit that like button so that we can help build our engagement. So once again, tonight's topic, top 5 positions of need entering the offseason. And to give you guys just a quick recap of some of my criteria for choosing positions of need. I went through this last time, and it's pretty much stayed the same. When I think about my positions for need, the criteria that I look at are, number 1, returning starters. Did we lose any starters at that position? Number 2, the production of the returning players. So if we have a spot where we had a lot of young guys who didn't really get on the field and we only have 1 real starter there, that's going to be an area of concern for me. Number 3, definitely injury concerns. If we have a position that has a bunch of players who were injured last year or have a pattern of being injured over their careers, then that's going to push them up a little bit on the position of need. Number 4, any free agent signings or trades that we made at that position. So if we got a position, we brought some new people in, then that's going to kind of lower that position down. Number 5 is position depth. At this point, we have a full 90-man roster, so position depth isn't as much of a concern as it was before the draft. And then the last criteria is experience of returning players. So if there's a position with a lot of veterans, that probably won't be considered a position of need for me. But if we have a position that has a lot of backups who are rookies, undrafted guys, or were rookies last year, then that position is definitely going to be considered a position of need. I see we got Mendoza in the comments. Mendoza, appreciate you tuning in. I know you have a ton of Cowboys content that you digest every week. So definitely appreciate you joining us for a few minutes on the Fifth Quarter Podcast. Also, we got Hector Trevino joining us. Before anybody says it, if Dak is still here with all the wannabes, they are not winning again. I'm assuming you're not a Cowboys fan. I would be interested to hear what team you're a fan of and how you ended up on this podcast at 8:30 on a Wednesday night. Just curious, Hector Trevino. But we appreciate you joining. And while you're here, be sure to hit that like button. All right, so the views in the DC4L Facebook group have doubled in the past 5 minutes. So thank you guys who are locking in. For you guys watching on DC4L, make a post in the group. Let people know that we're here. If you want to share this video to the group, you want to make a comment, put the link in, let people know we're talking about some great Cowboys content. You guys want to get involved, hit that like button, follow, share, sub, all the great things that you can do. Just like Mendoza said, follow Mendoza's lead. All right, we're at 8 minutes. As you guys know, I don't like to hold you long, so we try to get out of here as close to an hour as possible. So let's go ahead and let's dive into the top 5 positions of need. I've given you my criteria, so let's go ahead and look at what positions I've chosen as my positions of need. All right, so for my number 5 position of need, it is running back. I could have pushed this up a little bit higher, but I decided to leave it at 5. So what I tried to do with these screens is I tried to just give you guys some info about the position. And then I also kind of give you my thoughts on why I have that position as a position of need. So when I look at the running back position, we have our starter, Javonte Williams. Extremely talented player. Made the Pro Bowl last year. He does come in with some injury concerns. Luckily he didn't have any concerns last year, but in years past he's dealt with Achilles injuries. He's missed some time, and he has some injury concerns going back to college as well. Hopefully those injuries don't creep back up on him, but we do have to be conscious of them. Now, the reason I have this number 5 is because we have a full array of running backs behind him, but none of them have experience. I actually probably could have moved this position up a little bit higher. We got Jaden Blue, who last year was pretty much a healthy scratch the entire season until like the last game or two. We got Phil Maffa, who had a really good offseason and preseason last year, but he got put on IR, didn't get to play. And then we have Malik Davis, who, while I know the fan base loves him, he is what he is. He's a borderline practice squad guy. While he did give a couple of good spurts last year, he's not a guy that I would like to consistently rely on as being my backup. And he's definitely not a guy I think could be our bell cow in the unfortunate situation of Javonte Williams getting hurt. I see we got Lee Harrison joining us. Lee Harrison, appreciate you tuning in. Always a pleasure to see you join us on the Fifth Quarter Podcast. So, yeah, this position is definitely one that we should be considering adding some depth. So I have a couple of players that I think would be really good options in terms of the running back position. And I'm just going to put a couple of them on the screen. So we're going to go through the free agents first. Then we're going to go through some trades. Number one option, Najee Harris. Najee Harris has a ton of NFL experience. He's had experience being a bell cow running back. He does have some injury concerns. He was injured last year, but we have Javonte Williams, who's our bell cow, so we don't have to rely on Najee that much being the number one guy. On top of that, Najee is a great pass protector when it comes to pass blocking. At some point, Javonte Williams is not going to be a all three down back. So you're going to have to put a guy on the field who can pass protect on third downs. And we haven't seen any of those young guys we have do it. So we just have to assume that they're not good at it. So we definitely need to bring in a veteran. I don't have to get a young, explosive running back because the scheme does not need that to be successful. We need a guy who can run physical between the tackles, who can get you 4 or 5 yards when you need it, and who can pass protect really well. So those are kind of names that I'm giving you right here. Next guy on the list, Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb is an established 3-down back. He's dealt with a ton of injuries in the past. He made it through last season pretty much unscathed, but he did lose his starting spot to Woody Marks in Houston. Despite all that, I think if you put him in a true backup role, he'll be able to give you some spurts here and there, 5 to 8 carries a game to help be a good change of pace back. And if something, heaven forbid, happened with Javonte Williams, I think he can be a good spare tire running back who can give you 1 to 3 games of solid production. He still has that vision. He still has great patience. He's always produced every year. He's just been dealing with these injuries that he can't overcome. But I think if you brought him in as a true backup, I think he would relish that role, and I think he would be a great addition to the backfield. All right, next on my list is Raheem Mostert. Now, Raheem Mostert is 33 years old, but he still has that home run speed. So if you guys want a home run speed guy, Raheem Mostert is still a legit 4-4 guy. He's great between the tackles. His last season in Miami was his best year 2 years ago. Last year he went to the Raiders, and I think a combination of an awful offensive line added on to the fact that they use a top 5 pick on a running back kind of knocked him down the totem pole a little bit. But I think if you brought him to a team like this where he's guaranteed 5 to 8 carries a game, I think he can tap into that home run speed and give you another option. So I really like Raheem Mostert. He will probably be my number one option of all these backs. And of everybody on this list, despite being the oldest running back on the list, he has the fewest injury concerns of all of these running backs. He's kind of an Iron Man. He rarely gets hurt, and he's always in shape and ready to ball. Now, I would probably put this name at number 2, Kareem Hunt. He's probably one of the younger guys on the list, has a ton of NFL experience. He's a true 3-down back, great pass protector, great pass catcher, really good between the tackles. Despite that situation that got him ran out of Kansas City the first time, he's still a veteran leader on the team. That's one of the reasons why the Chiefs brought him back. He made one mistake. That mistake cost him his first time, and he's still trying to build back up. I think he's only 27 years old, so he still has some gas left in the tank. The Chiefs, again, the Chiefs had a terrible offensive line last year. So I think his lack of production was mainly attributable to that bad offensive line. because when he got a chance to play consistently, he was rolling. He's a guy who doesn't need a lot of carries to get hot. The Chiefs had a pretty heavy rotation of running backs, and they still let him get it done when they needed him. So all four of these guys I just brought up are all free agents. You can go pick them up off the street tomorrow. Now, the bottom two is an interesting situation for a lot of reasons. I see we got Ice Cold Cowboy joining us. Appreciate you tuning in as Ice Cold Cowboy. Definitely a pleasure. Hope we get you back in our fantasy football league again this year. So I'll be sure to keep you posted or hit me up as we get closer to August so I can get you back in there. Mendoza saying Trey's the youngest of these guys. Of course, he's one of your Florida State guys, so I'm pretty sure I could turn your mic on and you could tell us a lot more about him than I could. But interesting situation in Arizona. First of all, our current offensive coordinator was their offensive line coach and running game coach. So he knows both of these guys very well, James Conner and Trey Benson. The Cardinals have had a busy offseason when it comes to running back. They started the offseason off by signing Tyler Algier as a free agent from Atlanta, another young, talented back I would have loved to have had here, but Arizona was able to entice him to come there with the understanding that he would have a legitimate chance to be their bell cow. That's been reported. You can go look it up. Then they turn around and use the number 3 pick to draft a running back. So now they have a young running back who wants to be a bell cow. They have a guy they drafted with the number 3 pick who's already the third or second highest paid running back in the NFL. So they're going to get their money's worth out of him. And then you got James Conner and Trey Benson. One or both of these guys will not be on this team post June 1. I would almost guarantee, I would bet money James Conner won't be there because right now he's their second highest paid running back. William Wiggins, thank you for joining. We're doing top 5 positions of need. I'm still on my 5th position, so you're right on time. So James Conner, he's their second highest paid running back. He has a ton of injury concerns, and he missed last season with injuries. There's no way they're going to keep him on this roster. No way. And then you got Trey Benson, who Mendoza just pointed out is the youngest running back on this list. He was the highest drafted running back in 2024. He's a big physical back, ran a legit 4.4. The problem is he can't stay healthy. Has a ton of upside, 3 down potential, super explosive, but we haven't seen him on the field consistently. They may hold on to him for another year just to see what they have, but with Algier and Love, I don't see how they can give him any carries. So I would be shocked if either one of these guys are on the roster June 1. I could see them trying to do a cheap trade for Trey Benson if you like him, or I can absolutely see James Conner getting cut post June 1. So I'm paying attention to both of those guys. If we don't sign any of the guys on the top of this chart, James Conner is definitely a guy I think is probably going to get cut. If he doesn't go back to Pittsburgh, which I think will be a legitimate option for him, I think Dallas will be probably second in line in terms of destinations. Is Blue still scared of contact? We'll find out this offseason, Ice Cold Cowboy, because we're going to need to rely on one of those guys to step up as we currently stand. And based off of explosiveness and draft position, you would assume that Blue would get the first crack at being the backup. In terms of explosiveness and age, William Wiggins, I'm right there with you. I like Trey Benson too. But I don't think we have to have an explosive guy. I just think we need somebody who's reliable, who can pass block. And if Javonte Williams went down for 2 or 3 games, he would be able to come in and be our bell cow. All right, so let's go to my position number 4. I have a lot of positions I can choose from. I'm sure this is one nobody's really thought about, but for me, when I look at the roster and analyze it, I think it's one we need to consider, and that is slot receiver. Now, the reason I say slot receiver, you guys remember CeeDee Lamb missed a couple of games last year. We got absolutely nothing from the slot receiver position while he was gone. Now, George Pickens were able to really step up and take command of the offense, and Ryan Flanoy was able to make a couple of big plays on the outside, but the slot receiver position was completely invisible during those games that CeeDee Lamb missed. We have a lot of wide receivers behind him, but to me, none of them are true slot receivers. So George Pickens is an X. Kevontae Turpin, you would probably put him in slot, but I think he's just a special teams guy. Can't really rely on him. Ryan Flanoy, he's more of a Z receiver, which is what he played last year. We signed Marquez Valdez-Scantling. He's 100% a Z receiver. All he can do is give you 9 routes. And then we got Jonathan Mingo, which we don't know what he is because we haven't seen him play, but I definitely don't think that slot is in his repertoire. So we got a lot of receivers. None of them can fill their position if something were to happen to CeeDee Lamb. As you guys know, the slot position is a critical piece for our passing attack. And we get a lot of big plays from the inside of our offense. We don't have a proven backup, and the guys we do have are extremely inconsistent. So while we do have a lot of receiver options, and then we got guys on the practice squad, and we got guys we picked up as undrafted guys. We drafted a guy also. I don't think any of those guys are slot receivers. And if heaven forbid something happens to CeeDee Lamb again and he misses a couple of games, we have to live or die off George Pickens, or we got to hope that the team gets creative with those tight ends. And you guys know the one I'm talking about. I won't say his name, but we all know that hype train is get out of control. I'm just going to put it up there. I'll take it back real quick. All right, so let's go. I see we got Amanda Foster joining us in the comments. Appreciate you joining us, Amanda. Definitely appreciate you giving us a few minutes. If you could, Amanda, be sure to pin this on the top of the page just so more people can see it. So let's go ahead and look at some free agents. We did sign Tyler Johnson. While he is a true slot, his production has not shown that he can be a consistent starter. Now, the thing about the slot position, once again, not only is our slot position lacking, we don't have a true Z receiver. So I wanted to pick out some guys who could play the slot as well as the Z, because like Amanda said, I like Flanoy, but he's a Z receiver. He's not a slot. And the other problem I have with him is, can he take that second step? So here are a couple of guys I think could come in and fill that slot position. Number one is Keenan Allen, arguably one of the best slot receivers of all time. I think he's worn his welcome out with the Chargers. He went to the Bears. He proved he can play some X, and some Z. So if you did sign him, I think last year's contract was only $7 million. The number should be slightly less this year if you brought him in. So I think you can get him in for $5 to $6 million. He could be your starting Z receiver, or he can be a good mentor to Flournoy. And if something happened to CeeDee Lamb, you've got a guy who can step in and you probably wouldn't miss a beat, because he's still one of the best route runners in the NFL. It's an extremely trusted target on third downs. He's going to come in and immediately become your wide receiver 4. So I would love to see this option being made. Next on the list, I see we got Von Davis. Appreciate you tuning in. No, he gives you nothing in the slot, Amanda. All he can do is run 9 routes. That's it. He's a Z receiver, maybe an X, but he's not giving you anything in the slot. So Keenan Allen's number 1 on my list. Number 2 is Juju Smith-Schuster. People forget, I think Juju is only like 27 years old. He came into the league extremely young. Let me just look it up really quick. Juju Smith-Schuster he's 29. So people forget, he came into the league extremely young. A great slot receiver, can play some Z. He can play all 3 positions. He's a great yak receiver, very physical after the catch. Strong hands. Plays tough and physical. Has Super Bowl experience. He can come in and be a good security blanket for the team. My only concern with him is he still has a little bit of that immaturity. And if you brought him under those bright lights of the Cowboys, would we see some of that Pittsburgh come out of him? With the Chiefs, he was a model citizen, but you guys know once you get under that star, it usually doesn't bring the best out of you. Now, I still would take a chance on him because I like him for his skill set. I would probably say he's second behind Keenan Allen. Let's see. Ice Cold Cowboy. Chargers O-line made, I'm assuming, Herbert erratic and wide receiver choice selection last season, but hurt Allen in the process. That's a good point. They did have a terrible O-line. And Keenan Allen only did his work in third downs. I think you put him on a better offensive team, better running game, he can tap into some of what he had in 2024. Third option. Now, this one is a pure slot. If you bring him in, he's only playing the slot position. And that is Hunter Renfrow. Hunter Renfrow is probably one of the most natural slots in the league. He's great in short to intermediate routes. One of the quickest receivers in NFL. Not fast, quick. He's another third down bandit. He did make an All-Pro in the past. For some reason, he wore his welcome out with the Raiders. He left there, couldn't really catch on anywhere else. But I think if you needed a guy to just be your slot and be a special teams guy, I would definitely look at Hunter Renfrow if I just need a pure slot. Then last on the list is Sterling Shepard. And Mendoza says Sterling, I've always liked and just want him to play here because of his dad. Yeah, does have the Cowboys ties to his dad. I like him because he's a great route runner. He's another guy who can give you some inside, outside experience. He can play the Z. He can play the slot. He can play a little bit of X if you need him to. He's always won off of high football IQ. Great in the slot. Super, like I said, high football IQ, super smart. You put a scheme in front of him from what I've read and researched. You put him in a scheme, he's going to learn it in a week, and he may be teaching the class. He's that type of football IQ. The problem I have with Sterling Shepard is injuries. Every year he finds a way to miss 7 games. Now, again, if we're bringing him in as an insurance policy, heaven forbid Lamb gets hurt, that makes me feel a little bit better. But then I have the problem of, what if Lamb gets hurt and Shepard gets hurt? So now I'm screwed again. So while I would probably rank these Allen, Juju, Shepard, Renfrow, but I think all of them for just the slot position were great options. Yeah, I'd be down with him, but Allen isn't an option. I think Allen and Shepard could come in and start at the Z. Juju would just be a good backup guy. He would be your fourth receiver. And then Renfro's just a pure slot. But we need to address that slot receiver position because we have nothing behind CeeDee Lamb. Yeah, it's not a lot of it's not a lot of demand for small, pure slot receivers anymore. The Cole Beasley type slot receivers are pretty much becoming ancient history. And a lot of these slot guys are looking like Jackson Smith and Jigba, CeeDee Lamb, Keenan Allen, the wide receiver from the Lions, just big physical receivers that just happen to have great lateral quickness and know how to get open in the slot. So a lot of teams don't really have a need for a 5'10" slot guy who can't take a hit. But if we need a slot, I can deal with it. All right, we're at 30 minutes and we're about to hit the halfway point. I see those likes are now matching the views. So thank you guys for hitting that like button. For those of you watching from Facebook, be sure to get in the comments. I see there's a couple of people, Amanda and Von Davis got in the comments, but for the rest of you watching, get in the comments. Let me know what you think about our topics. Let me know if you have any questions. Man did him on the field throw with Cole. He did. He was a great slot receiver, but like I said, that type of slot receiver is kind of going by the wayside. Sterling could fit that Cobb Hilton role. Yeah, he's a Z who can give you some slot. That's exactly what he is. Jeff, you put the question twice. I didn't miss it. I was about to come to it before I go to my next position. You said no Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill has a lot of red flags. I mean, just off the field alone is red flags. And you bring him under that star scrutiny, I may be concerned about that in terms of a slot. Now, if you want to bring him in as a Z and just say we're going to roll with him as our third receiver, I'm cool with that. But if we're just talking slot receiver, bringing in Tyreek Hill does not solve the slot receiver position to me. He's coming off a gruesome injury where you don't know if he still has his lateral quickness. The type of injury he had does not affect straight line speed because you're just going straight ahead. It may not even affect his leaping ability. But when you tear your knee up like that, you're going to lose a lot in terms of lateral quickness. So even if he was considered a slot receiver before the injuries, I don't know if you can consider him that now. Also, you got to deal with the age and, like I said, the off-field stuff. And I've never heard he was a real student of the game. And when you have a guy at the slot, you need somebody who understands concepts and how to get stuff done. Tyreek Hill has always been, I'm the fastest guy on the field, and because nobody can run with me, I'm going to be an all-star. So I don't know what he is. That's why I wouldn't take a chance on him. Unless we were just talking about he wants to walk on and try to be our Z receiver. I'll deal with that. If it's anything slot, I have a bunch of other options I'd rather have over him. Ice Cold, he's washed up. We don't know. He probably could be. That's a very strong likelihood he is washed up, Ice Cold Cowboy. So I can't disagree with you there. All right, number 3 position. Now, this is probably a position. This is probably going to surprise a couple of people who I have number 3 and number 2. But again, when I look at the roster, I look at what's there. I look at the experience level, and I look at the depth. I just went through that at the beginning of the show. And at number 3, I have the edge position. Now, the position is full. We have a full house of edge rushers. We got Rashawn Gary on one side. Sam Williams, while he can be a little bit of a knucklehead sometimes, he has 4 years of NFL experience. He's had a 6.5 sack year. He's a great special teamer. Maybe we can unlock something with him with better coaching. On the other side, you got Donovan Ezaraku going into his second year. Super talented guy. You just drafted Malachi Lawrence, a guy who can play both sides. He's young and inexperienced, but the athleticism is there. And then behind them, you still have James Houston, who's been in the league for 6 years now, and he has 2 seasons of at least 8 sacks. So you have guys who can get to the quarterback. You're not going to have guys who are going to make a Pro Bowl or be one of the top sack getters in the league, but you have a bunch of guys who are capable of getting 6 or 7 sacks. Now, I want you guys, I know everybody like to have a war daddy, as Jerry Jones calls it. You like to have that premier pass rusher, like a Micah Parsons, D. Ware, like we had in the past. But I want you guys to think about Christian Parker. Think about where he came from. Think about Philly. Think about Green Bay. Think about Denver. In those schemes, they were tops in the NFL in terms of sacks. And they barely had a guy who had more than 12 sacks. Everybody contributed in the pass rush game. So you had a lot of guys with 5, 6, 7 sacks. And I think when you look at the roster as it stands, we have a lot of guys right now who are capable of that. Now, I say all that, but at the same time, this position does lack experience. We've got Rashawn Gary, but on the opposite side, Ezaraku has 1 year. Malachi Lawrence hasn't played much. James Houston has some experience, but he's considered your third guy. Then behind behind Rashawn Gary, you have Sam Williams and you have Tyus Wheat, who's a special teamer. Then you have Jayshon Barham, who's going to be a inside-outside guy with no experience. And then you have this experiment that they're trying to do with Leofau. So that right defensive end spot has a lot of inexperience and a lot of question marks, and nobody who can be a true leader on that side of the ball. So when I look at this position, I think the talent's there. I think the depth is there. We just need somebody that when Ezaraku comes off the field, we have a guy who's been that pass rusher guy before who can say, next time you go out there, maybe do a little rip, or you had set the tackle up for a spin move, but you didn't do it. Be aware of that next time. Just little tidbits that can help them see stuff that they can't see themselves to kind of speed up the processing for them. So in terms of free agent edge rushers, I just got a ton of vet guys for you. Number 1, Von Miller. Now, Von Miller is 33 years old, but he had 9 sacks last year for the Washington Commanders. So he still has a little bit something left in the tank. He's definitely a veteran. If there's anybody who can teach our pass rushers how to be better pass rushers, it's Von Miller, because he's seen it all. He's done it all. He played a little bit under Christian Parker in Denver, so he has some familiarity with the scheme already. And he's just a high football IQ guy. So he's another one of those guys where if you give him the playbook, give him a couple of days, and he can go up there and teach the class. So I would Von Miller's number 1 on my list right now. I would love to have Von Miller in our pass rushing room. Number 2, this is not number 2 on my list. This is just number 2 on my chart here. That's Jadeveon Clowney. Clowney was here last year. He had a solid season last year, 8.5 sacks. Most of those sacks came in the last 3 games of the year. So I feel like that was a little bit of fool's gold. 31 years old. Doesn't really still have the speed that he used to have. When I look at what the Cowboys are doing right now, It looks like they're going all in terms of speed rushers. So Clowney doesn't really fit that role right now. He's more of a grinded out, hard nose. Um, I'm just gonna bully the tackle and plod my way to the quarterback. Let me go through these comments really quick. He clowned last year, but he's older now. So yeah, he's not familiar with the scheme, but he is familiar with the culture. So if you need somebody to come in and be an adult in the locker room that kind of understands how the culture of the locker room is, he might be a great guy to come in and play. Again, I don't think he's not known for being a high IQ leadership type guy. He's pretty much just been like a hired gun for the past 5 years. If a team needs a pass rusher, Jadeveon Clowney is normally the guy they go to. He gets you 5 or 6 sacks, then he goes on to the next team. That wouldn't be a bad thing, but I'm looking for a guy who can come in and be a leader to these young guys. And I'm not sure if Clowney can be that guy. Plus, on top of that, I think he's more better suited to play the same position that Rashawn Gary plays. And to me, bringing him in like that would just be a little bit redundant. So I probably wouldn't choose Clowney as my option in case all my other options were filled. Now, the third guy is interesting. And Jeff says, give me Reddick. Now, Reddick has played under Christian Parker for 2 years with Philly. His best year was his last year with Christian Parker in Philly, where he had 11 sacks. He was kind of a malcontent. He was one of those guys who said, I can do better elsewhere, and they allowed him the opportunity, and he basically did not succeed. So I feel like right now he may be at a position where he's trying to prove himself again. Now, unlike Von Miller, I think Hassan Reddick may be able to come in and be kind of your starter of that left side. He has the same skill set as Ezaraku. I don't see him as being like a leader type guy, but I feel like he can be a lead by example because Ezaraku could be on the sideline and he can watch Reddick. Him and Reddick have a similar skill set, and the coach will be like, hey, you see what Reddick just did right there? You have that same capability. Let me see you kind of add to your toolbox some of what you see Reddick doing. Again, he's not the best locker room guy, but if you need a guy, if you feel like you need a guy to come in and be a starter, I feel like you can take a chance on him. The contract is going to be super cheap, so you bring him in dirt cheap, give him some chances in the preseason, and see what you have. So if I was going off this list, it'd be Von Miller 1, Hassan Reddick 2, Jadeveon Clowney 3. Honestly, I don't think Clowney's an option for the reasons I stated. He plays the same position as Gary. He's not an explosive pass rusher, and I think that's kind of what Christian Parker's looking for. Gary said, "Hold my Gatorade." All right, so we're down to our top 2 positions of need. The views are still holding steady, so thank you guys for continuing to stick with us. Once again, those of you watching on Facebook, get in the comments. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you have any questions about the stuff we discussed so far. Now, this number 2 position is probably going to surprise a lot of people. But when I look at the roster and I analyze what I said, let me go back again for those of you who missed the show earlier. When I'm looking for choosing a position of need, I'm looking at the returning starters. I'm looking at the production. I'm looking at injury concerns. I'm looking at who they brought in, and I'm looking at the depth of the position. Now, when I go to this position, a lot of those criteria are not being met, and that's the guard position. Now, I know everybody's going to say, we got the Tylers, we're good. I can agree to an extent, but you got to remember, Tyler Booker is only in his 2nd year. There's going to be possibly some growing pains. And then you add to that, he missed a couple of games last year. So you need some quality depth behind him. We didn't bring back Brock Hoffman. If you look on the roster right now, these are our three guards on the roster. We got Tyler Booker, we got Tyler Smith, and we got TJ Bass. I wish the T and TJ stood for Tyler, but unfortunately it doesn't. But when I look at this position, we only have three guys. And what's also concerning to me is when I look on the depth chart online, they still have Tyler Smith listed as left tackle. Now, I don't know if they're foreshadowing, if they think Tyler Smith's going to start off at left tackle or not, but you got to be cognizant of that. If Tyler Smith starts off at left tackle, then TJ Bass has to go to your left guard, and you don't have a backup on the roster. You could probably slide Nate Thomas in, but I think he's a better tackle than guard. Same thing for Johnny Cornelius. We just signed an undrafted guy, which I love, and I think he's going to be a really good guard, but he was undrafted for a reason, so I don't want to put that type of pressure on him. So we need at least one more guard on this team for me to feel comfortable. We signed Matt Hennessy in the offseason. He's a pure center. And TJ Bass is also a center guard. So I don't know if he's considered the backup center as well as the backup guard. A lot of position flex that gives me some concerns if we had to deal with an injury. So I see we got Jack Meeker joining us. Better late than never, Jack Meeker. I always appreciate you tuning in. William Wiggins said, I'm sorry, I think Booker and Guyton going to be a lot better. We got Hennessy. I agree. I think the Tylers are going to be really good. We just don't have sufficient backups. If we have to put Tyler Smith at left tackle, we don't have any backups left. If Tyler Booker gets hurt again for a couple of games and TJ Bass has to step in at guard, we don't have any backups. And Matt Hennessy is a true center. He's not a guard. That's my issue. We need to have at least one more guy who can play guard. And I got a couple of really good options. One of them is almost too perfect a fit to not already be on this roster. So the first one is Will Hernandez. I talked about the running back position in James Conner and Trey Benson. Clayton Adams was the offensive line coach and the run game coordinator with Arizona. He was also there with Will Hernandez, so he knows him very well. Will Hernandez is an extremely physical guard. He plays with a ton of nasty. Great at getting guys off the line of scrimmage, which is what I think we're looking for this year. He's a guy that's going to come in and be a veteran leader. And like I said before, he's played under Clayton Adams a couple of times, so he knows the blocking scheme well, and Clayton Adams knows him well. And if the team decided that we want to put Tyler Smith at left tackle, Will Hernandez is a plug-and-play left guard. I like TJ Bass. He doesn't have a lot of starting experience. Will Hernandez has started in this league for 8 years now. If you want to put Tyler Smith at left tackle, you can throw Will Hernandez in at left guard. I have absolutely no problems with that. So at worst case scenario, you've got a guy who can immediately step in and be a starter, and you probably wouldn't lose much. Best case scenario, if you don't like your tackle position that much and you want to put Tyler Smith at left tackle, Will Hernandez come in and be your left guard. Jeff says Hennessy at center, BB slides to guard. I don't think they're going to do that. I think BB came into the league as a center. He never played center in college. So I don't think they're going to rock the boat with BB. Like, I don't think they're going to give him any chances to play guard because they have to let him stay at center and continue to develop. This is year 3. Year 3 is when offensive linemen, you kind of know what they are. So either you got an all-pro or you got a guy who's going to get cut in 2 years. So I think this is the year they have to see 100%. Is BB going to be our center of the future, or do we need to go back to the drawing board? They tried it with Connor Williams. They had him start at guard, then they put him at center. They tried it with what's his name? His name was Connor too. What was the other Connor McGovern? They tried it with Connor McGovern, sliding him back and forth between center and guard. Didn't work out well here in Dallas. Luckily, it's working out for him elsewhere, but he's still stuck at center right now. So I don't think they're gonna move Cooper Beebe around unless they absolutely have to. Like you said, Jeff, emergency situations. Hernandez is definitely a dog. He comes in, and if you talk about you don't think Tyler Guyton has that killer instinct, or the guy we just drafted from Penn State has that killer instinct, he has it. So yeah, looking forward to that. So the other guy that I have on my list, give me 1 second. So other guy on my list is Liam Eichenberg, Notre Dame guy. Started off at tackle, eventually went to guard and center, but he's kind of settled in at the guard position. He's only 26 years old. He's super young, former second round pick. Great size, great length. His problem is he's been considered too much of a tweener, and they don't know where to put him at. So for me, if I need a guard, I'm going to bring him in. He's 26. You're a guard. No more tackle, no more center. You're playing guard 100% of the time. I'm going to see what we have. He's, like I said, he's 26 years old. He's a big physical player. Has solid feet. Kind of flamed out in Miami. But, I mean, it's Miami. It could be a lot of reasons why he flamed out there like everybody else does. But these two guys, I don't think Eichenberg can come in and be a starter if you want to slide Tyler Smith out to tackle. But I think he gives you some very quality depth at that guard position. So these are my top two options. Will Hernandez is number one. I think the only reason he hasn't signed here is because he's still holding out hope that somebody calls him to be a starting left guard. I feel like if we go into mid-June, late June, and nobody's had an injury at the guard position and nobody's gave him a call, I think he comes to Dallas because players love consistency. So they like playing under their old coaches. They like knowing a scheme that's familiar to them. I feel like post-June, Will Hernandez is probably going to be an option for the Cowboys. All right, so we're going to our number one position of need post-draft. I don't think it's a surprise to anybody. But, of course, that position would be inside linebacker. Now, I want to preface it by saying this. I like our linebackers. I think Shamar James in year 2 has a chance to step up and be a quality backup. I really like D. Winters the more I look into him. The only reason D. Winters didn't play consistently in San Francisco is because arguably the best linebacker in the league and Fred Warner was out there. And then a guy who's probably going to be a borderline Hall of Famer in Dre Greenlaw was the other linebacker. So when you got two guys like that, it's hard for a guy like D. Winters to get some quality snaps. When he got his quality snaps, he played very well. I watched 5 games of him last year starting for Fred Warner, and he looked really good as an interior linebacker. He wasn't the Mike, but he was an interior guy. Super fast, legit 4'4", 230 pounds, great anticipation. He knows how to analyze a play. So he can see it, he attacks it, and he makes the tackles. I think he's going to surprise people at how well he plays. Overshown is kind of like that D. Winters type guy, just a natural playmaker. And then we got Jay Sean Barham, who we drafted in the 3rd round, who's going to be playing a little bit inside-outside, but the team has already said he's going to start off at the interior, and he's a super physical player, great athletic profile. The reason this position is still number 1 is because we don't have a true Mike. Now, I've said on this show, and you guys have heard me say it, I don't think we have to have a Mike because of the way our system is set with our safeties, but I think it would be good to have a true Mike on this roster. Number 2, I think we have some injury concerns with Overshown. So we're going to need another guy to come in if Overshown has his usual missing 10 games. Number 3, we don't know what Barham's going to do. They could decide in training camp that, you know what, Barham is a much better pass rusher than an inside linebacker. We're going to throw him at pass rusher full time. He could come out and be amazing at Mike. You just don't know. Number 4, I like Shamar James. I watched him play. He showed me a lot of positives, but I don't know if he was just a benefactor of the defense was so bad. He was just able to play wild, loose, and free and make a bunch of tackles, or if he was really out there being a true NFL linebacker. We'll find out this offseason. But I think we definitely need a guy who can at least come in and be a good play caller in terms of a Mike and somebody who can be really good against the run. So these are the options that I have for inside linebacker. Number 1, Bobby Okereke. I know Cowboys fans aren't really familiar with the player. You've heard the name, but this is a really talented linebacker. He's only 29 years old. He plays super instinctive. He reminds me a lot of what I said about D. Winters. He's really good in run support. He's the type of guy who he can see the play and he can attack it with aggression because of his high football IQ. You can see on the field that he's a great communicator. I don't think he was the Mike everywhere he went, but he has had some Mike roles before. So if you needed a guy who can come in and be a Mike, I think he's able to do that. He's super durable. Hasn't missed a lot of games. He's used to playing multiple positions. So he can play 4-3 where he's the Mike. He can play some wheel. He can play 3-4. He can do it all. He's done it all. Super high IQ. Led the Colts in tackles in 2024. The last time he was really getting some playing time extensively. So I think you bring him in and he could come in and solve a lot of your problems. Number 2, Jordan Brooks. Jordan Brooks has been the name of the offseason. Jordan Brooks is a super athletic, explosive linebacker. He's really good in pursuit. He's good at getting the ball, creating turnovers. He's only 27 years old, so you're probably going to get his best year. Last year he had a career high in tackles as a Pro Bowler. Now, you don't get green dot from Jordan Brooks. Jordan Brooks is not the green dot in Miami. I know a lot of fans are trying to say that he's the middle linebacker. He's not the middle linebacker in Miami. He's a wheel linebacker. So you're not getting green dot from Jordan Brooks. But what you are getting is a guy who's super instinctive and who can make plays on the ball. And like I said before, with the safeties that we don't necessarily have to have a Mike. I would like to have one, but if you give me a guy who's super instinctive and can make plays on the ball and is athletic, we'll figure out the Mike between Downs and Thompson and PJ Locke. We'll figure out the green dot there. He makes plays, and that's what we need. I don't know if I touched this on the show or if I did it on social media, but I want you guys to go take a look at the Miami Dolphins roster. You'll be surprised at what you see. Number one, Jordan Brooks is not the Mike linebacker. So for that team, his value is already slightly diminished. Number two, he's the highest paid linebacker on that team. He may be the highest paid defensive player on that team, if I'm not mistaken right now. So you've got a guy who's not at a premier position, and he's definitely your highest paid linebacker, maybe your highest paid defensive player. That's not going to fly for a team that's in rebuild mode. Number three, during the draft, the Dolphins drafted two linebackers that play the same position as Jordan Brooks. So they drafted Kyle Lewis in the 5th round. Kyle Lewis from Pittsburgh, converted safety. Another guy who flies to the ball, just like Jordan Brooks. And then in the 2nd round, they drafted Jacob Rodriguez. And for all you guys who followed the draft, you know what Jacob Rodriguez is. He's basically Jordan Brooks. So you've got a guy who's not your Mike. He's super expensive. And you drafted two guys who play the same position and the same way as him. With all that being said, I would be surprised if Jordan Brooks is not a post-June 1 cut. I think that's the only reason they haven't traded him, because they do not get that cap relief right now. So I would probably look for Jordan Brooks to be traded, more than likely cut, but possibly traded post-June 1. And if that does happen, you best believe the Cowboys are going to be the number one team on his wish list, and he's going to be the number one player on our wish list. I think it's going to be a match made in heaven. So hold on. Wait post-June 1. Let's see what happens with Jordan Brooks, because I feel like there's a very, very, very high possibility that he gets cut post-June 1. Or the Dolphins overplayed their hand and they didn't take trade offers before the draft, and now they pretty much dug themselves in a hole by drafting two guys at his position, and his trade value is going to be extremely diminished. That's why I say he probably gets cut, because if any team with a brain looks at their roster, you know that he's not going to be there this year. So why would you offer a 3rd, 4th, 5th round pick? You're going to offer a 7th round pick. Now, if you trade him, you have to take on that entire salary cap dump this year. But if you cut him, you get to break that up into 2 years. So I say the Dolphins are going to say that 7th round pick is not worth taking on an extra $4 or $5 million in salary cap dead space this year. They'll just wait post-June 1 and cut him. So pay attention to that one. The last one on the list is Bobby Wagner. Now, to be honest, Bobby Wagner is probably 3rd on my list of these guys, only because I put him on the list because I think we need a Mike, but I don't think it's a necessity. All Bobby Wagner at this point in his career gives you is he's a Mike. The athleticism's gone. He looks terrible in space. If you watch the games, they exploited him. He looked like Ray Lewis his last year or two in the league, where they just basically put him out on the island and they threw the ball right at him. But he definitely brings you leadership. He brings you championship experience. He can be a really good mentor for these young guys. And of course, if you need a green dot, he can give you that day one. But that's all he gives you is above the shoulders. Below the shoulders, he's going to be a liability unless our defensive line really steps up and our safeties are just flying everywhere. So I would go Brooks, Okereke, Wagner. But all three, I think, are solid options. But Brooks is number one. Okereke is probably the one that we can go pick up at any time. And then Wagner is if we feel like we need a wheel. I mean, if we feel like we need a Mike, green dot guy. Okay, so we're at an hour, 4 minutes. That's pretty much all I got for you guys. So those are my top 5 positions of need post-draft. We got running back, slot receiver, guard, edge rusher, inside linebacker. I think we're probably going to address at least 2 of those before we go to training camp. I don't know which 2. I would assume inside linebacker and probably guard. I think those will be the 2 that most likely get addressed. If there's a third one, I think it's running back, and that's only because we're not going to play Javonte Williams at all this offseason. If the young guys don't look good in practice, you're going to need to bring in a vet to kind of man your number 2 unit. So I think that's a third option at running back. So we're going in the offseason right now. Not a lot to talk about yet. Teams about to start mandatory OTAs. We'll be going into we're going into voluntary OTAs. We're about to head into mandatory OTAs in June, training camp, July, preseason in August. So we still got some football to talk about. We're about to hit the dog days where there's not a lot of content to go through. So I don't know for certain what we'll talk about next week, but we will definitely have a show next Wednesday. So be sure to join us next week at 8:30 Central Standard Time for the Fifth Quarter Podcast. You can catch us on Facebook. You can catch us on X. You can catch us on YouTube. I may bring in a guest. If you guys have any topics you want to discuss, feel free to put them in the comments. Feel free to send me a DM. If something happens this week, we'll go through that. I'll put together some content, see what we can talk about next week as we get closer to voluntary OTAs. I don't like to do fluff content. For you guys who follow me, I don't like to do a lot of potential controversy topics just to get viewership. So I'm not going to talk about Dak. I'm not going to talk about George Pickens unless something happens. I'm not going to do like some of these other content creators and just feed off of buzzwords to get people in here. I'm going to try to bring you guys relevant content that can help you learn something and that you will need going into the regular season. I appreciate that, Mendoza. Thank you. So, yeah, I don't have my topic right now, but we will have something to discuss next week. I may bring in another podcast and talk about some stuff. Again, if you guys have any questions or if you have any topics, feel free to contact me. If not, I will see you guys next week at 8:30 Central Standard Time for the Fifth Quarter Podcast. And as always, let's go Cowboys. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you next week.